if you're new to the channel, I wanted to let you guys know that this is part 2 of a 2-part video. I have the first part down in the description below, and there's also going to be a card that will just be popping up on screen, just to let you guys know that that before jumping into this video. The self-help industry is massive and has very little oversight, allowing self-help gurus to make wild claims and to position themselves in however way that they want to be. They can be energy healers, they can perform miracles on stage, or they can be extremely wealthy people, or present themselves to be that way. The landscape of self-help can be rather predatory, despite what self-help is actually meant to be. Self-help is meant to help people and be this positive force. And as I've talked about in the first part of this video, I feel like gurus don't exactly deliver in that sense. They hook you in sympathizing about particular issues you're dealing with, abusive relationships, trauma, mental blockades, financial instability or poverty, among many other things. Rich gurus like Tony Robbins, Andrew Tate, and Tai Lopez are people who seem like they have the solutions, but digging into the details, they really don't seem to. And as I left off in the previous video, when you look at the layers of these rich self-help gurus who honestly define what self-help is these days, and you peel them back layer by layer, the uglier things become, the less helpful they seem to become. And you're going to be seeing that more in this part of the video. For sure, people aren't perfect, and I don't expect the products and services that various gurus provide are going to be home runs in terms of change and improvement in people's lives every single time. However, there are some distinct problems that I plan to get into this video that show just how bad the popularized version of self-help is right now. So without delay, let's jump back into where my previous self left off. The third layer, their mentality and beliefs. A lot of big gurus' success have been clearly defined, and criticizing them opens you up to several people attacking you. When Matthew McConaughey released his own course called The Art of Living, Tony Robbins was there to back him up, along with a variety of other people who he's worked with. Even though to a lot of people what McConaughey was doing was clearly a cash grab for a shoddy product, there were watchers of that webinar who were actively attacking people who sounded disappointed when their sales pitch was tossed. Moderators were shutting down the chaos that ensued as people were rightly pissed off to know that they signed up for this 6-hour-long webinar only to be given yet another course opportunity.
That's rough, buddy.
While I haven't found any particular reviews of the course itself, I can imagine the course is kinda alright.
I mean, it's alright.
I know the VIP stuff that one got wasn't really great, but I can imagine that the course itself has some footing to it, at least. But my real criticisms about self-help and the people that are at the top really start to form at this stage. What they're offering on the surface is okay, but delving into the rabbit hole of self-help leads to uncovering more about these individuals, their beliefs, and their overall mental state.
Oh shit, here we go again.
This is where things start to get more conspiratorial, since a lot of what I'll be saying in this part is more so speculation than fact. This is me reading between the lines, looking for common patterns, while still keeping things grounded in reality. And keeping those things in mind, I'd say a lot of people whom we regard as influential in the self-help world are weird, deeply misinformed, or need some actual mental help.
Oh, you're sweet. Call Human Resources, answer eating Jim! Hello? Human Resources?
I've talked already about Tony Robbins, and on the surface, to an average man like me, he seems like a decent guy. But I can't really say he sees eye to eye with a lot of women. It might be likely he thinks less of women. The guy hosts a lot of events worldwide, but also behind closed doors. He doesn't allow people to do any kind of recording whatsoever during those events. I'm sure with the frequency of his events, there isn't anything weird going on. But when you have sexual harassment allegations looming over your head, and also had to deal with a case where you were allegedly groped a girl in the woods one time years ago at a speaking gig, those kind of event decisions raise some eyebrows and have some skepticism behind them. Even if there's nothing going on and the reporting around these allegations is malicious and undermining Robbins' credibility, I feel like how these situations were handled by Robbins and his team could have been better. I feel like his entire defense is simply telling people it's a big lie and I wouldn't be doing those things. And any argument is resulted in let's agree to disagree. It's all just really one big trust me bro moment. And it's not a really good look when your entire brand is built around you as a person and your own actions and beliefs. Those lingering allegations suggest to me that he thinks less of women and that they're only useful as they are attractive in his eyes. He can offer sound advice for sure, and there's plenty of credit to some aspects about him, but there is some baggage that comes with it. But the biggest thing I want to get at is that Robbins isn't an outlier here. There are some people with some very regressive opinions that aren't reflective of what the world is becoming and what it is right now. An example of this is Dr. Laura Schlesinger. She was once a highly regarded marriage and family counselor. She made a name for herself through her books, which talked about nurturing healthy relationships and creating happy marriages. Then, one day, she decided to start a radio show. It was at this point that we eventually learned what Dr. Schlesinger thought about particular issues in her industry, such as interracial marriage, gay marriage, and gender identity. Her radio show was pulled from popular broadcast stations after she used racial slurs in a call 11 times and scoffed at the idea of interracial couples who sought her help through that show. She eventually found another station, but was not very popular, obviously. There was also a time where she had to write an apology post where she apologized for the comments she made about gay marriage and of the LGBTQ community in 2000.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
You also have Andrew Tate, who built a following through his Hustle University that's hosted on Discord. He's in prison for alleged human trafficking charges, which makes it pretty telling his views of women. And that's assuming that you've never seen any of his content. Then there is Jordan Peterson, which frankly, I don't even want to get into that mess of a man. I've already shared how twisted my mind is with my video on depression, and let's just say his mind is more backwards than mine was when I was in my teens. However, there is another brief overview of him if you're willing to not check the timestamp of the video and actually sit and watch it. These are just a handful of examples, but my point is that we see a lot of these people saying one thing, but doing another. That, or they're hiding skeletons about who they actually are as people. And it's pretty understandable why that is. A lot of them are biased and refuse to adapt. Going back to Dr. Schlesinger, she built her brand through books and offering her services in whatever town she was in. In other words, she was able to choose her clients via location and the rates that she charged, while her books kept her at arm's length from people she didn't see eye to eye with.
Mike! Stay back!
But one time that she became publicly accessible and couldn't brush people away, we got to see some of her less appealing views on particular issues. After all, on social media, she simply could just stop responding to someone or have some boilerplate response at the ready. A lot of gurus or people in the self-help industry are in a bubble, and that bubble can really hinder one's own view of the world and the people in it.
You sit on a throne of lies.
It becomes a glass-shattering experience to see the world differently or to face something that is difficult to accept. In the case of the alleged human trafficker guy, it's seeing women being more empowered and independent. For this racist bigot, it's people coming to terms with their sexuality and gender identity. It's people learning to embrace other ethnicities and that there are other races out there.
Oh my god! Wow!
But the thing is that we only really start to see that once people take an actual look at what they are saying and what they are doing. When BuzzFeed News started its year-long investigation into Robbins, his lawyers sent letters to both BuzzFeed and some of the people that they interviewed. Beyond that, the investigation found that a lot of the workers that are working at Robbins are volunteers rather than salaried workers. That's apparently reserved for particular individuals, I guess.
That's rough, buddy.
I guess that makes kind of sense why he loves appearing on Fox News whenever he wants to offer financial insights as well. And even on a tamer scale, Tai Lopez isn't really that great either. While I'll concede some of his courses are helpful, according to some individuals, his bias is towards formal education, and his preference for taking more risks makes it less appealing for particular individuals that are risk adverse. Lopez is in the right that Western education could definitely use a glow up, but Lopez is a risk taker and prefers financial vehicles like NFTs, crypto, and real estate as possible options. And last I checked, NFTs fucking suck. In fact, he was recently scorched by his latest NFT stint. Crypto is the currency of choice for drug lords, scammers, and money laundering schemes and cartels. And real estate isn't even meant to be an investment option. You're literally commodifying a basic human need, you financial predator. And yet, this self-help guru who is offering you wisdom to get rich is encouraging people to be mini versions of him, to dip their toes into real estate investing, to build businesses where you screw over other people, buy up other companies, and build up more power and wealth. And all of this is just the tip of the iceberg. The more you look at these gurus and their views, the more you find it geared towards modern-day capitalism or conservative regressiveness that are old, terrible, and unhelpful in where the world should be going right now. Treating shelter like the stock market isn't going to make people live better lives. Spouting racial slurs at an interracial or non-white couple isn't going to solve marital issues that they're dealing with. Yelling at victims of abuse isn't the best way to deal with trauma that abuse victims experience. And again, we see these people as successful and worthy of investing more into so that they may teach us their ways.
Ironic.
Even though what made them successful in the first place was leveraging a broken system that we are realizing is breaking down, thanks to them exploiting it in the first place. And instead of admitting that they helped in breaking this system, they're trying to provide vague answers and spin it in a way where you're getting value and this is the truth. And they hope that enough of us will buy into that rather than be outraged at them. At the end of the day, what they're supporting and what they're saying isn't that great and is more convoluted the more that you think about it. And even if certain acts or behaviors happen only a handful of times, it still is a big deal. In self-help, who you are and your views is everything. That is your literal brand. Your actions define everything. While I'm not expecting everyone to be flawless individuals that have a perfect record and have never made any mistakes whatsoever in their entire life, I am expecting people in this industry to at least adapt when there are some changes that are being made, when they are forced to reflect and to use that as growing opportunities and just being a better human being. In self-help, we are expected to do those things. We are expected to grow. We are expected to change. We are expected to be open to new ideas. And in general, we're meant to be progressive. And when you have self-help gurus being misogynistic assholes or making unwanted sexual advances, when you have people throwing racial slurs and being transphobic or bigoted, when you have a psychologist telling people to kill themselves, it's not a great thing. Especially when those individuals don't really make efforts to make amends beyond releasing statements or going on some victimhood tirade that they're being canceled. And all of this culminates into the next layer. The fourth layer, the true value. As we're getting to the inner core, we're beginning to see what their true value for what it is. Even though we often frame gurus offering generous information as people who are serving the public, I don't believe that the gurus are offering their best. To be clear, when someone offers a product or service, I'm not expecting a perfect or flawless record of success. When your product or service is built around who you are as a person, not everyone is going to agree with you. Not everyone is going to get along with you. It's fair to say that up to this point, one could describe me as not the biggest fan of a lot of popularized gurus' products or services. That I'm just this pessimistic asshole rambling incessantly about something that frankly won't change. But as someone who has spent several years looking at self-help and seeing the good and the ugly with it, I can say that they're not doing their best, because if they are, they would be sparking bigger changes in people's lives. It's telling when a Robbins fan proclaims they attend his events every single year. It's telling when you have youth make misogynistic comments and they look up to people like Andrew Tate or Jordan Peterson as points of references. It's telling that people think of good old JP as some kind of martyr or prophet. It's telling that the best solutions that these individuals present are not progressive. They're individualistic, self-serving, or nihilistic. I get that to some extent. This is the self-help industry, after all, and there's always an approach of self-optimization in mind. However, I don't believe this to be the sole solution or approach. Lone wolfing your solutions makes progress feel lonelier, and it's sometimes difficult for people to overcome problems on their own. To me, genuine growth and genuine effectiveness in products or services comes from being specific, pulling back the curtain and showing people what is really going on. And this is important to me because I know these rich self-help gurus keep the vast majority of people at arm's length. They don't want to divulge their true strategies and are content with upselling people various pills they take or special bonuses that don't really enhance the experience much. Even when they themselves don't bother to try the products they recommend to people directly or indirectly. I know all of this is rich coming from a small-time self-help guru like me. I haven't launched courses, products, or services at all. I'm insignificant at the time of this recording, this with my 500 or so subscribers. But I'm confident that these gurus can be better. The issue is they're simply not. I say this because they are leveraging what is called the power of averages. The reason their information is generic and they focus that they focus on bigger and broader issues in people's lives is solely because it brings in a crowd. There's a reason why Tony Robbins, the biggest self-help guru in the industry, attracts people that are victims of abuse or have phobias or a lot of mental baggage that they need to unpack. They believe his courses can actually change them, that this 6'7" man can fix them. And in some cases, they are right. But the law of averages dictates that with each stage, fewer people are going to be hooked in and actually get the help that they're looking for. If 2,000 people are attending an event, then only 200 people are actually going to listen to what Robbins is saying. From there, only 20 people will actually apply the advice, and maybe, just maybe, 2 will actually find genuine success and want to share that story with other people to inspire them.
Oh my God! Wow!
Even though most people will say they had a great time at these events, the amount of people who genuinely gained something from those events is small in comparison. Maybe not 2 people exactly, because Robbins has been doing this for so many years, but it's still very small in comparison. Another example of poor quality guidance is that from Robert Kiyosaki. A lot of people have heard about him thanks to his highly popular book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. However, what a lot of other people might not know about him is that he's published 17 other books and even made an appearance on ABC's 2020 show at the time. This show featured a lot of investigative journalism, hard-hitting interviews, among other things. In the case of Robert Kiyosaki, he was issued a challenge where 3 people were given $1,000 to start a business, and with Kiyosaki's guidance, with several books on financial advice under his belt, and a thriving business at the time, you'd think that Kiyosaki would be able to effortlessly guide these 3 people to starting up a decent side hustle, right?
When the sun hits that ridge just right, these hills sing.
Well, after 20 days, the results were the following. One of them lost $1,000 and didn't recover anything at all. Another managed to recoup their $1,000 investment from their business. And the final one made $234 in profit.
Yikes, 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 and let me guess, you have a great personality.
It's 20 days, and I'm not expecting tens of thousands of dollars to have been made by each individual. But when Kiyosaki brands himself as this financial guru that is meant to help the poor thrive and grow big businesses, it's pretty bad when they've spent $3,000 collectively, and out of the 3 of them, they only managed to make just over $2,000. And while Robert Kiyosaki waved this all away as a success because each person learned something, the test here was not whether the participants learned anything. It was a test on how effective Kiyosaki is with running a business. My point in all of this is that so many gurus behave similarly to Robert Kiyosaki. We believe Tony Robbins is a success because his events are expensive and happen everywhere. He's been doing this for years, and a lot of people talk about him with awe and reverence. This is despite his true success record is a lot smaller. People think Kiyosaki is this financial guru mastermind, even though historically he's been off about a number of things. I wrote an article about him too, and I might talk about him more some other time. It's great that some people have found Tony Robbins and others useful for their lives in some way, shape, or form. But when you're looking at the bigger picture, a lot of gurus are in situations where their products simply don't work. Whether that's because people haven't had the time to go through the material or something else. And you'd think at this point, a guru would change the formula. They'd ask for feedback from their audience or make new additions to the product to provide more value to the people who are committed to this training, or that they would build upon these products and services that they are providing to people. But we really do not see that. And that's telling of the overall quality one can expect from a rich self-help guru who is shaping what self-help is today. If they're not really changing, they already see themselves as these great individuals who have climbed their Everest. And while that might be true to an extent, the flaws that I pointed out in this video are pretty glaring. To see them follow the same formula again and again and not really grow themselves says it all. And it gets worse as we approach the fifth and final layer. The fifth layer, the cult. I would make a Fifth Element joke, but honestly, it's kind of in bad taste. At least a little bit.
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Yeah.
Multipass.
Multipass.
Anyone in the world can create a following for themselves thanks to social media, with a wide variety of personalities and people with ideas and thoughts and products and services and all of that fun stuff. We're able to form connections with people we would otherwise never meet. We get to bond over similar interests, like our preference to a particular celebrity, or our connection to the industry at large, and so on. Because of this phenomenon, it's hard to imagine that many of the self-help gurus in the world are part of some cult, and that they're the center of it all. But the deeper that you go, the more you see elements of what it means to be in a cult. And the one that's perpetuating it is the self-help guru that people are listening to. The big difference between following a band or a particular celebrity and a self-help guru is that they're not telling you exactly how to be living your lives exactly. Sure, you've got people like Elon Musk and Taylor Swift who made it clear what their political leanings are, but their influence on a political scale isn't as mind-altering as self-help gurus. Like attracts like and all of that. A right-wing individual isn't going to be easily swayed by what Taylor Swift has to say, nor is someone that listens to Taylor Swift and is a big fan of her is going to be openly supporting Elon Musk and listen to every single word that he has to say. But it's very different for self-help gurus, as people are going to them for particular problems in their lives, and resolving them and how they are resolved can make an impact on our lives moving forward. This is why these individuals can be so concerning at best and dangerous at worst. Because one aspect of self-help that isn't talked about much, that there is a lot of religious undertones to this industry. Robbins is a Catholic who still goes to church and is a firm believer. Even Andrew Tate practices Islamism since 2022. Before that, he was an Orthodox Christian. Surprise, surprise.
Surprise,
And while people are free to believe and practice however they choose, I find it's easier for religious views to spill into this particular work. And it's dangerous because the industry is about helping people be better. If your point of reference for being a good person and developing habits is the Bible or old archaic systems, then what you're preaching isn't always all that useful. The general vibes are good in terms of the Bible and certain scriptures imparting valuable life lessons. But if you're digging into all of the details, there are some real issues with that. Beyond that, it's not much of a stretch that over time, religion becomes more like a cult. Getting higher in the ranks means serving under that faith, bringing more people in, and paying large fees to ascend to the next level. Self-help gurus have streamlined this process even more and fine-tuned it. Instead of a big organization with groups of people profiting from the masses, it's a single individual enriching themselves. And I say this is different from being interested in or a fan of particular bands, brands, or celebrities, because that obsession is not as palpable as this. Sure, you have Swifties breaking down into tears over the Taylor Swift's movie, but you're not seeing Taylor Swift upselling her fans during the middle of a concert at every opportunity that she can, unlike Robbins does in his events. And it's not like she's telling you exactly how to be living your life. Right? You're engaging with concerts or bands to have a fun time, to be entertained. You're following particular celebrities to learn more about them and see them up on the big silver screen. You're there to be entertained.
Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
You're not there specifically to learn valuable life lessons from them. Unlike a Taylor Swift concert, self-help gurus are more predatory. Tai Lopez offers cheap courses for sure, but has so many pricier upsells to follow up after you dipped your toes in. Jordan Peterson charges a whopping $200,000 to $300,000 per speaking gig. While venues are going to be the ones paying that upfront cost, you can expect these tickets to be pretty expensive. And Peterson's budget alternative is his Peterson Academy that he's rolling out with, where he charges $500 US to enroll. Through that, you'll go through various courses that aren't even accredited at all, despite him being a professor. And I doubt that they would be accredited at all because of his overall behavior around the possibility of his psychology license getting revoked. You have Robbins himself, who again charges tens of thousands of dollars if you want to get the best of the best from him. But the cult-like vibes don't stop there.
But I'm not done yet!
The behavior has affected people who are well indoctrinated in their teachings. A lot of products and services that gurus offer aren't all that helpful or growth enabling. They solve minor issues, but don't tackle the bigger problems that they said that they would tackle. That, or they go about dealing with big problems in the worst possible way. All of this is designed to get you to think that you need to learn more and grow more from them, rather than realize their products aren't as great as they tell you.
Well, that was a waste of time.
And getting stuck in that sauce for so long will alter how you think of them and how you think of your own growth and journey that you're on. We think of self-help gurus as these saviors, as they're imparting knowledge and telling you how to succeed and giving you this seemingly clear pathway to success. For many, it's easy to see these individuals as guardian angels. And if you're not that religious, then seeing them might encourage you to think more like them. We see this with Tony Robbins as well, as he picks out particular venues to do his speeches. I can see stark comparisons to him and televangelists as he fixes people on stage. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw his venues as some kind of megachurch, and his crowds his congregation. The expectation of dancing and chanting in his events isn't so different from singing songs in church. While it's totally normal for band concerts, obviously, it's an odd choice in setting where people are meant to be learning and improving themselves. But the biggest cult-like behavior is the fact that people's offerings, the products they are paying for, vastly enrich these gurus. Meanwhile, those gurus are mitigating costs in the process to ensure that they are maximizing these profits. Tony Robbins brings in volunteers for his events rather than bringing in paid employees. Aside from the price of booking the venue, he just mitigated one of the biggest expenses his events incur with free labor. And how much is Tony Robbins worth again? My point is that with all these successful self-help gurus branding themselves as helpful individuals guiding people to greatness, they seem more like false prophets who are hoarding their wealth and not doing anything to solve particular problems in people's lives. In fact, some of their work continues to hinder discussions or solutions that are being made to address these issues. Jordan Peterson is a skeptic on global warming or climate change, a thing that we've known for decades and are unable to have reasonable discussions around because people like him are too stupid to do simple Google searches, are lying through their teeth, or are secretly rooting for the planet to kill humanity, or a combination of those things. Even with Tony Robbins hosting events to support women here and there, it still doesn't change the fact that his behavior and treatment of them should be swept under the rug. Not only that, but paying volunteer workers in listening to you speak is akin to companies paying freelancers in exposure. You're a multi-millionaire that is charging thousands of dollars for people to attend these events. Pay your damn staff. Hire some staff. You have Andrew Tate openly berating and looking down at women and seeing women as nothing more than beautiful models by his side. He thought of them so lowly that he trapped women against their will and expected them to stay close to him to further accentuate his wealthy and playboy persona that he sells to his base. Issues like global warming, women equality, and wealth gaps are all things we care about these days. And yet, we're seeing gurus consistently contribute to these problems. But what's dangerous is that people don't see all of that. To them, they see this as an avenue to success. This is an ideal lifestyle to have and to believe in, and to encourage these gurus to keep on doing.
More.
All of this is what it truly feels like to follow the counsel of a wealthy self-help guru, to be pulled into their world and believe what they believe, to think how they think. You may have visions of grandeur that they instill in you. You may pick up on some valuable tips and tricks along the way. But deep down, a lot of the advice is flawed, given from a privileged position, or is inherently misleading to lead you down a path where you depend on the individual for how you see the world, your life, and your problems. You'll hang on to their every word while paying them hundreds of thousands of dollars on things you don't really need and courses that aren't solving the initial problem you were trying to solve.
That's rough, buddy.
And it all gets harder to move away from that because so many people are trapped in this loop. And we believe that the few people who do have success and show that off are living proof that the teachings and techniques work. Little that these people know that the person who broke that loop thought a little outside of the box and did something different. Even though I'm part of this industry that preys on people's vulnerabilities, I believe that things can change. On smaller scales than this, I see people valuing practical advice and ideas. I've worked with self-help brands that value research and pointing to specific studies rather than just guessing. And for myself, I've always seen self-help in this more practical light. I know that there are many ways to solve a problem and that there is no one single ultimate solution. As such, some people might find one method to be terrible while others might find it more useful. This isn't a knock on the quality of the guru, but it is one if that's the only solution that they are providing and aren't willing to be flexible and open to new ideas, which unfortunately a lot of rich self-help gurus seemingly are that way. And that is why I criticize those at the top of this industry that I'm part of. And it's why I put this video together, to get us to think about how can we address this? How can we approach self-help in a more appropriate manner? To start, we can turn to these rich self-help gurus and put more accountability on them. If they are paragons of helping people, they should be more familiar with overarching problems. Having their fingers to the pulse of bigger worries, their brains can truly support causes that tie in with their original products and services that are designed to solve these problems. Tai Lopez is taking risks and invests in risky industries. It would be great if he set up an investing firm where he would invest a small portion of his money into newcomers' accounts regardless of the initial investment. Better yet, he could only deal with companies that have good ESG ratings. Very briefly, ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance, and is an overall investment philosophy that focuses less on the bottom line and looks to what companies are doing in those particular areas. Having more rich people pushing an investment philosophy that cares about people and the planet sounds like just a really good thing to do. Tony Robbins, if he truly values women, could donate to various women's rights causes. He could employ more women for his events. He could even fight for women's reproductive rights or start a foundation that helps women get access to contraceptives, abortions, and so on. Something that is a big problem in America. And the list goes on and on. While these efforts alone wouldn't solve the problems on their own, they would set a precedence for this. It would encourage these individuals to put money where their mouth is and address certain issues directly. But if gurus aren't willing to provide those kinds of things, then they should at least be improving themselves. They should be looking back at their seminars and events and webinars and products and services and ask themselves, what can I do better? How can I improve these things? How can I be better servants to the audience that I have attracted? How can I improve my success rate so that more people are being helped out with what I'm saying and doing? And if they're really not willing to grow that much, then it's truly up to us to recognize that and to respond accordingly. We take off our tinfoil hat, clean off the clown makeup that they made us wear, and we leave them behind. And that is all that I wanted to say about the self-help world as it is. Thank you guys so much for watching the entirety of this really long-ass video. I know it was quite an endurance run, but I swear that I'm going to be making much shorter videos in the future. Don't forget to go and leave a like and to subscribe to this channel for more videos in the future. Thank you guys so much.